Hey everybody, it's JD. Welcome to Golden Guys on the Comic Core channel. Hope everybody's having a good time out there. Of course, we have our panel here. We're just waiting on one other guy. Mike's going to join us in a little bit. Knights of Old. Hey, look at this.
Perfect timing.
Clockwork. Look at that. So, all right. So, DS, how we doing?
I'm good. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good.
I'm great.
Feeling good.
I can't hear Mike though, so I'm gonna have to probably jump out and come back in.
I figured we'd get that out of the way real quick.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So
Yeah, every time someone comes in after you've been here.
Yeah. He always has to make a dramatic entrance, you know. All right, Mike, I've not put you on the spot. Welcome. What's going on?
I got my what is it called? It's whiskey and lime and ginger beer.
Like Irish donkey or
Mule, something mule.
it's a mule, a Jameson mule.
It's like the bottom of
If it's vodka, it's a Moscow mule with whiskey. They call it something else.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Jackass mule.
Yeah, it's something with Jameson. I know a lot of places here do it with Jameson. It's cool. It's a gimmick. Everybody's into ginger beer. It's cool. It's good. It's really good.
You guys drink beer or what do you think?
Everything, man. Yeah.
I'm a single malt kind of guy usually.
Yeah, you never know. I've had Paul.
diet caffeine-free Diet Coke.
Nice. I've had Paul call me at 3:30 in the morning sometimes. So dirty. Look at this one. Here are the names: American Mule. Sounds like a dirty hippie. I like that one. Barbarian kind of. So we have Caleb in the house. We've got Mr. Gretzky, Marvel Hunter, Comics Must Explain, Steven Oates. Hey everybody, nice seeing you. Perry Comics, of course. We got TJ, this Lab Dragon, very cool. Evan, what's going on? Mastodon, very good to be here. And the immortal Biggie Shack was lead off, and he's still around. So, all right, cool. Paul, how's things going?
Things are going great. Got some biblical weather going through right now. So if I
We had about an hour and a half ago. Paul's right in the path of the storm. I get it. He gets it about an hour and a half.
Yeah, you're my weatherman.
Yep. So it was pretty intense. I got stuck at a bar waiting for cheese for the rain.
You were in a bar? I'm shocked.
Yeah. That's what happens.
What kind of weather are we talking about?
All right.
Like,
So
tornado? What are we talking about?
usually like just like wall clouds of rain right now.
Yeah, I haven't heard any hail or tornadoes.
We had some good thunder, so we had some good time. But it got rainy pretty good, and then it dried up real nice the rest of the time. So, all right. So there's the weather report for the Midwest, Upper Midwest. So
Seattle,
right.
it's raining.
So good seeing everybody here. I totally have something that I wanted to talk about amongst the guys here, and it's what have you seen in your genre? This is something where somebody asked me, who can I do this on? Since what has moved dramatically the most since, let's say, and we can't just do the last 6 months because the golden age in 1 year, let's say, in a year. What do you think of your personal genre that you collect, like pre-code horror or Marvel Timely superhero comics, or Jungles and Fiction House, and some horror, but mostly like vampire stuff. Which one has not so much increased in value as much? I guess it would have to be the only indication, but the demand or something that your book, what's the one book that you've had see, or what's the one thing that you can say about that area? Because a lot of people ask about that. So I was going to throw that out, but I think the best guy to go to first is the market. That's really the one that everybody's asking me for. DS.
Yeah, I was going to say you could just say all of PCH.
Yeah, because that's the one where it's so dramatic. I need to lead off with the big one. So.
Yeah, on the one hand, I feel sort of like lucky that I'm into PCH because I've had a lot of people hitting me up and asking me questions like, "You're into PCH? You know about it? What about this? What about that?" So that's kind of cool. But But on the other hand, the reason they're doing that is because the specific genre I'm into is exploded in price and demand. And like, it'd be much better if I was into like Golden Age Superman, something that's not exploding in value. But I don't know. I mean, I got into Golden Age, like pre-code horror, primarily probably like 4 years ago, between 4 and 5 years ago. And a lot of the big books I picked up were early before they exploded. But in that short amount of time, I've seen like LD Cole stuff has exploded, especially his top tier stuff like Mask Comics or some of like the Blue Bolt PCH stuff. Anything LD Cole really has just exploded. Even some of the off brands like Target Comics and stuff like that. Yeah, his stuff is just astronomical in the last couple of years. And also some of the grails that were like, you know, Chamber of Chills 19, everybody knows that one from the Misfits album. That's always been a huge book. And I remember that started spiking like 3 years ago. It was spiking high, and a lot of less of PCH really wasn't yet. So some of the bigger books were, but then you get books in the last year or two, like a Mr. Mystery 12, which is like the poker coming really close to the eye on the cover. You know, that one, the past couple sales on that have like exceeded 1,000 a point.
And the poker has like flames coming off of it on the side.
Yeah. And prices on some of these
Very classic cover
that were just outside the top 10, like there's traditional top 10 pre-code horror books. Some of those have fallen out of popularity, and some of these other ones in like the 10 to 20 range have jumped up. And it's just amazing how far they've shot up just in the last like 2 years even. I mean, some of these books were, you know, like Web of Evil 5, it's the orange Ditko, or not the Ditko one, it's an orange electrocution cover. It might be a whole cover. I'm not positive who did that cover, but Web of Evil 5 is another one that was, you know, $100 a point. It was a pretty good book. And the sales over the last year and a half have just been astronomical on it. And I just did a post before we came on the show. I started a new Instagram account called PCH Market Watch. If anybody wants to check it out, where all I'm doing is market.
Absolutely.
And I just posted a new market update on that of a LD Cole Mask 2. There was a 4.0 restored that sold on eBay last month in an auction for like $1,500, and the seller or the buyer just turned around and listed it on my comic shop for double. And he'll probably sell it. So a lot of what's fueling this in the PCH world, and it's not all of it, but it adds to it, because there's not a lot of these books floating around. Some of these books, there's 10 or 15 copies. Is sort of like flippers buying it from each other and marking it up each time, and it just goes in the circle between a few people, and it has an apparent look that the price is exploding. That's not helping matters. That's just adding fuel to a fire that's already burning out of control. But that's part of what's going on too, because when you see like Mask Comics, there's not a lot of copies floating around, or Mr. Mystery. Right. Some of these are being bought and then flipped and then bought and then flipped in a small circle of people. It's the same book, and it makes it look like it's much more valuable. But they're doing that because the fire's already burning, though. So I mean, they're not causing it. It's out of control, man. And I've stepped away from PCH. So the last like 10 books I bought have been non-horror books, because they're just too pricey. I'm trying to sell some, actually, make some money.
I mean, it's one of those that this is the one that you might want to have had a solid, say 15, 20 PCH books 25 years ago versus what you have now has easily, I would say, tripled as a joke to say that's all it's done, you know?
Yeah, I mean, a Chamber of Chills 19, I don't know, like at 8.5, 10 years ago, sold for like $250 at 8.5 in like 2003 or 2005 or something. So in the early 2000s, Chamber of Chills 19, high grade, was selling for a few $100, maybe 5 or something. I don't remember exactly, but now an 8.5 of that would probably go for 12, 13 grand, if not more. So if you had all these books from like 10 or 15 years ago, I mean, the investment value on those over 15 years to be getting, thousands of percents on this thing, it's an insane increase. With any market of anything, I don't think it's sustainable. But it keeps going, and people keep telling me I'm wrong. But, I'm going to sell some. I'm probably going to sell my Black Cat 50 in 7.0 just because it's so valuable. I can't.
Yeah, I was going to say it's one of those decisions you're gonna have to make. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm shopping it around privately. I'm not going to throw it on an eBay auction, obviously.
Right.
But, you know, I don't mind holding it for a while. It's a great book. I love it. But,
Right.
you know, I can probably.
I have that. I think about that.
You know, I bought it in October of last year, and it's worth so much more now. I can't not take profits on some of this stuff because I see my collection as an investment portfolio as much as a collection of comic books.
Right.
You follow the pricing a lot more than I do. I've always kind of been on the edges of PCH, you know, for 20, 25 years now. But I mean, 20, 25 years ago, we knew about Mr. Mystery 12. We knew about Black Cat 50. But what I'm seeing lately, and you can probably confirm this or not, is percentage-wise, I'm seeing the biggest increases in smaller series, non-key books, because they're just getting pulled up by everything else. So you're seeing a book that would go for $100 5 years ago. I'm seeing people selling 2.0s for $1,500.
The superior books, the Avon books, is some of those in the PCH that I've recently seen dramatic. I mean, books that were going for $40 to $100 because there were just so many of them. Discovers there's some artists on the interiors that have very early works and horror works. And it's like skyrocketed $400 or $500 for the same book.
Yeah, and I think it's just because the stuff like the Black Cat 50,
the Journey into Fear,
it's been priced out of people's price range, so they're looking at other things.
The other stuff, exactly what they're doing.
I did a video several months ago about Atlas, undervalued or affordable Golden Age books, and I spotlighted Atlas books, which is the Marvel, pre-Marvel, Marvel horror.
And Neely, we miss you.
Yeah, those were going for like you can pick
Lorna the Jungle Queen. Love Lorna.
And the prices on those now are starting to really move because people who want horror books are looking for affordable stuff at the bottom. The demand for the stuff at the lower end of PCH is really increasing because people are getting priced down to it. And you know, I'm seeing 2, 3.0s, 4.0s of Atlas books that are decent going for, you know, more, well over 150, 200 a point, some of them, and some of them are Grail territory, and that wasn't the case even a year ago for Atlas. Atlas was always good stuff that you could get.
Atlas is now getting out. It's pricing me out of it because now, like, I always wanted that Journey into Mystery. I think it's 16. It's like a half vampire, half guy, and it's like running up. It's a great cover. That thing I could have had for $200, and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna get it. That same book is now the guy put it out there in a Comic Link or something like that. He got $1,200 for it, and I'm like, I'm an idiot. I don't even know how to do this stuff. So,
well, there's a 6.0 of that on eBay, and I think he wants like 2,000 or something for it, over $2,000 for it. You know, a year ago, that book would have been like $500.
Exactly, and it's just been an Atlas, and there's the same amount out there. You know, people stop throwing away comics. You know, people don't throw away comics anymore. Let's be honest. They're never in the trash. You're never going to find them in the trash. Hey, look what I found in a dumpster. Hell no. Everybody knows they're worth something now, you know?
Yeah, and ironically, you know, as the prices and the demand increases on these rare books, it encourages people who own them or have copies or can dig them up to sell them, and a ton of them are flooding into the market. Now, I say flooding, you know, for like a PCH where you might see one every few months, now you're seeing one, you know, every 3 weeks to a month. So it's not like there's still a lot of them out there. But, you know, Black Cat 50, 5 years ago, you could not find a copy. Nobody would give a copy of that up. Nobody would give it up. You won a year, maybe. And now, this year, I've probably seen 10 or 12 copies. And there's more to come on upcoming auctions. So it never was a rare book, but it was undervalued where people that had it would not come off it. They're not selling it because they like it way more than what they could get for it. That has changed, and now people are willing to sell their copies. So there's a lot more coming to market. But I mean, look at the census numbers on some of these books. Like Black Cat's got like 60 or 70 on the census. For pre-code horror, that is a common book, really. I mean, that's right under EC numbers when you start getting. It's really not a rare book unless it's under 20 on the census for like a Golden Age.
I got a question about this. So,
Yeah.
you know, when I see all these PCH going crazy like that, and I'm not, you know, super into it, you know, I recognize a few, but not all of them. And then I see some like the Black Cat or whatever, the exploding face one going crazy. Like, I just wonder, like, you know, because with the superheroes of the Golden Age, it's kind of easy to be like, okay, these are the mega keys, and there's like a few, you know, it's first appearance. It's very like kind of easy to kind of tell. They have certain attributes to them, and but with PCH, it kind of seems like whatever, it could be anything. Like
Yeah, that week, that month.
it seems pretty scary to me, or maybe not sustainable, or I don't know. It just seems it's unlike anything else I've seen in comics, I think.
It's a
Yeah, there's some-
tremendously
there are
powerful
some
market.
Yeah, there's some pre-code horror books that are perennial top tier books, and they go up and down. They fluctuate in price, but if you're in PCH, you know there's some books that are always going to be at the top, and they might move down or up depending on whatever's hot. But then there's other ones that jump way up into the top, and they like spike in popularity, and then they usually drop back out. And that's the case with a lot of books you're seeing. There's just a lot more fluctuation, and books.
A lot of shock suspense stories are available now because I think people are trying to take advantage of that because they went up for no reason. There's so many of those books.
Yeah, and that's a good book, but you know, the
So
PCH is
many of
split on that. A lot of people don't really like it that much, like me, and some people think it's freaking awesome.
I mean, the shock suspense story is one of those books, you know, with the head and everything. The Decapitated Head's been copied so many times. It's not even remotely not available anymore. It's
Right.
place, and it's not, and it hasn't moved that much in price either. It's kind of like stabilized right now because
Yeah, well, that one has so many out there, but that's a
the joke was
perennial top book, though. I mean, there's plenty of them out there. The price is not going to go up. It'll go up over time steadily. It's a good,
Right.
it's a great book. But like Web of Evil 5, you know, people are paying, you know, like $700, $800, $900 a point on that book lately. That's not going to stay at that. That's not. It's just not that level of book, in my opinion. Not
Web of
personally.
Evil 5 is the LB Cole Spider.
No, Web of Evil 5 is an orange electrocution cover.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yep.
I think it's a Jack Cole, but I'm not positive.
Looks like a Jack Cole.
Yeah, there it is. Yep.
Yeah, that's it right there.
There's a lot of those out there. Yeah, I used to see more of them though.
Well, I mean, it's not scarce, but it's not common. You know, run of the mill as far as availability. But I mean, the last few sales of that have been like $800 a point. It's
That's
not.
a lot.
I don't think that will sustain that price. It's a good book. It's an awesome cover, but it's not. I mean, it's selling in like top 10 price range. I don't think it's a top 10 PCH over time. But I also
They
personally,
was saying about Black Cat 53 years ago prices.
I mean, Black Cat's always been the most expensive PCH book, and you know, 3 years ago,
800 a point, 900 a
3
point.
years ago, probably 700 a point, 800
Yeah.
a point. Last year, it was, you know, a solid 1,000 a point.
Easy, yeah.
This year,
Before you,
lower grades are going for 1,700 a point now.
yeah, I don't even know how to. I can't figure it out anymore.
It's
Is that
crazy
the
now. It's
holy
like
grail of PCH?
Huh?
Is that the like number one undisputed champ of the PCH?
Yeah, I'd say that's the number one undisputed champ of PCH.
Amazing Fantasy 15 of
That's the AF-15 of PCH, and doesn't matter what anything else does, that will always be the top book. Yeah, that's number one. So it deserves to be the most expensive book. But you know, I bought one last year, and the going rate was 1,000 a point at the end of last year. Now the going rate is like 1,500 a point on mid-grade copies, but the lower quote entry-level copies are going for even more than that, because it's weird because the entry-level copies bring the most people to market because those people can only afford the cheapest copy. So there's so many people like flocking to get the lower grade copies. You know,
The 2s and 3s are gone. Yeah,
the prices are. I mean, they're paying $4,500 for 2.5 restored on that.
right.
It's an awesome book, but I mean, geez, that's
Yeah, it was a 3. It was a 3.5. Look, sorry, you're right. It was a 4. There was something, and it was the same book that was sold on eBay 8 months earlier for $1,000. Same book was just turned around on eBay, and everybody was looking at it like, "You believe this?" And like people, they want it. They want it. You know, one of the things I noticed is there is a demand for something in the Atlas world that I've noticed. A lot of the crime stuff has gotten here, and I think it's a lot of more tributes to some of the noir stuff that Marvel's been doing. So it's kind of it. But again, key with everything, in whether it be Atlas or pre-code horror, everything else is right now it's pre-code horror's world, and everything else is kind of getting slightly pushed up and some of it pushed down, and it's kind of good. It's kind of coming. I like it that way. Right now, a little stabilization is good. But I was going to ask about Submariner whenever I talk about Submariner heat, Human Torch heat, and stuff like that, because I've heard crazy stuff that this stuff has been heating up faster than anything else. I hear a lot of people say some Planet Comics. Like I was going to say Fiction House, and the funny thing about the book, the genre that I was going to say, it's all driven by artists. It's not so much the cover. If it is a Matt Baker cover, they want it gone up. That's what it doesn't matter the quality of the cover. If it's factual as Matt Baker, if it says it's Matt Baker, if CGC will recognize it as Matt Baker, they want it, and it's on everything, and that has driven up dramatically. Books that were $1,200 in the high end, really high grade Matt Baker stuff are $2,300, $2,400, $2,500 right now. I'm not talking Phantom Lady or anything else; those are out of control. But that's the genre, or something I was going to focus on was the good girl art and everything else that's going on. Names are, it's Baker, it's Maurice Whitman, it's those two big time right now. Wally Wood, I guess, is out there just for that one cover, but and obviously the Spirit. But one of those things about art, it's so artist driven is the genre. So, Paul, as a guy who does the artist reviews, would you say that the heat on Baker is rightfully deserved finally, but it's brought up some other great people?
I mean, I've seen it happen with Baker before. There was in the mid '90s. There was a big burst of Baker collecting, and the prices went up a bit. But I mean, obviously, prices have really skyrocketed lately. And yeah, you are correct. There's even a hint that Baker drew one line on this cover, and people are like, I want it.
Yep. No, because that's the thing. It's a lot of it is shared covers. A lot of them are reused covers, or trials of one. They just handed off. All right, didn't work for Jumbo, give it a Jungle. Boom, 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 and they just handed things back and forth. And whether it be Jack Kamen on one and Baker and Kamen on another, or whether you'd never know. And that happened all the way through. You got the planets, you got the fights, you got all that other stuff. That's one of the things. It's the genre I was going to focus in on, the good girl art and everything else like that. It all depends on who the artist is. Now, another genre that, in my opinion, is very similar to that. Talked about pre-code art. Now, obviously, the good girl art stuff. There's always the good ones. To me, the underrated one is the Brenda Starr when she's tied to the freaking radiator, like freaking Farrah Fawcett in Extremities. Just throwing it out there.
That's an expensive book.
What?
That's an expensive book.
It's an expensive book, but I think it's underrated. Put good girl art and everything on there. It's torn up. You got the Triple Crown right there. But then, obviously, the Phantom Ladies and probably high up there, and anything with old, Sheena's are pretty expensive right now.
Your Jumbos have plenty of GGA.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say you have all the Gene. You have
I feel like the good girl art and the PCH as an outsider, they both kind of have this thing going for them where there's the King comic, whatever, Black Cat, and I don't know, Phantom.
Yeah, let's just say
King or whatever, and then a lot of the other ones could be the next one. And that, I feel like, could drive a lot of people to kind of
robots.
I better get it now before it becomes the next huge grail.
Robots.
It's very effective,
Well, there's a small group of people that are buying and selling Golden Age, and it's like they're not comic dealers per se; they're collectors. But the Golden Age market or group of people that are into Golden Age, there's a lot of people that are collectors, but they do small cons, they flip a lot of books, they get a lot of stuff created, so they're like semi-dealers, and a lot of, not half, but I don't know, maybe close to half of the sales of these big PCH books, these Brenda Stars, these Phantom Ladies, are between these if you have 50% of those sales are to these people who are marking it up and flipping it, and it's like a game of hot potato. Whoever gets, sometimes the person down at the end of the line gets stuck with it, and now he can't make a profit because he was the last one that paid, and now that's topped out. And I see these guys post pictures of, you know, their wall at a small con, or post them on Instagram, or list something on eBay, and it's a book I know has been floating around, and it's made it to them, and now they're sort of stuck with it. It's not really like it's going for that much. It was just flippers buying it from each other, and it makes the market look like that book's worth that much because they were buying it off each other just to sell it to the next one. It's
To use
really
a financial term, that'd be called painting the tape.
yeah, exactly. And you know, that happens with GGA. GGA is more insane than PCH right now, I think. And I'm not
The harder stuff, yeah. The harder stuff, it's just they constantly moving around the same books constantly. But there are everybody, you know, there's there. When I was going with the GA and the artist, then you've got, you know, if you think about it, Mike, you got that the big thing. I guess the biggest thing with you is probably the same thing. It's artist driven. You say Schoenberg's probably have been the biggest impact on your genre. Is it more artist or is it the characters? Submariner.
Well, actually, you know, because I was thinking about what has jumped in the past like 3 to 5 years, and I have to say, without a doubt, it's Restored and Green Label and like Defective, like page quality have all gone up. So, I mean, there's a few like keys here and there. Like there's this one has gone up a lot. Cap 3.
Oh, the Stanley. Yeah.
Me.
Today, that 5.0 I showed you.
Yeah. And Namor first cover appearance has gone up a lot. And then, you know, I saw this sale today. Someone had one of these. Went for a lot of money. It's a weak book, and I think it will continue to keep rising just because of the subject matter with the Holocaust cover. But besides that, like, and you know, like Cap 1 has risen and then it's kind of stabilized, and then I think Marvel 1 is on its way up again. People are starting to realize
The anniversary of it.
yeah, and as more people are going into the golden age and, you know, throwing their money around, they're finding like certain books are just harder to find even available, and that's definitely one of them. There's just not many around, so that could go up again. But yeah, I think more people, and probably because the price or availability is just more people. Like I used to be able to get lots of books restored way cheaper, and now because they would just sit there, no one would care, no one would want them. They'd be shunned and like, oh, who wants that? Blah blah blah, or like Green Label, or incomplete. Nobody, you know, you get amazing deals and they just sit there. That would be the best. They don't sit there anymore, and I mean the prices aren't like insane, but they're gone quick. They don't just sit there, and they definitely do sell for a lot more, I'd have to say. But that's kind of the timely front the past 5 years that I've noticed.
Yeah, I think also, you know, as Golden Age becomes more popular, there's certainly more people into Golden Age now. And a lot of people, when you first get into Golden Age, you think everything is super scarce. And when you're looking for a book and it pops up, you jump on it with tenacity, especially from auction, because, man, I never find this book. This book's impossible to find. It's a ghost. And you go nuts, and that price spikes and it goes super high because there's a lot of like newbies that think it's super rare. And after a while, you realize everything is sort of rare, but they all are still out there. It's just not like superhero books where there's 20 of them on eBay at any given point. But they come up on a regular basis. They're not hard to find. You just may have to wait, a month or so. And then you find the ones that really are ghosts that are distinguished from the common ones, which are not easy. And that's like a, Marvel Comics 1 or something. Some of these you just never see at all.
Well, you come in from Silver Age, and it's like, if you don't see a book in the Silver Age, I mean, there's no book in the Silver Age that you have to wait 6 months to even buy. No. So when in the Golden Age, and you have to wait maybe a year.
I mean,
Really?
literally in Silver Age, we go for quality. It's because we can get like 4 or 5 different ones. We have a massive amount of choices to make, in the Silver Age. We do. I mean, you do. I just did it this weekend. So I went to a con. I did it this weekend. Exactly what I did. It was great. I upgraded 2 books I really wanted to, and I was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, and in Golden Age, if you have the money, you can just pick up high copies when they come available. But if you're on a budget or you're looking for lower grade collecting stuff like me, I'm looking for a Mr. Mystery 6. I don't see one for 8 months, and then a 6.0 pops up on a Comic Link auction. Well, I can't afford that, so now I have to wait another 3 months, and then a beat up restored copy comes up. Well, I don't want that, so I have to wait. So I waited 3.5 years to get that book, and I was constantly looking for it. Did I see some? Yes, I saw some that were way out of my price range.
Right.
Some that were lower than I wanted or had defects I didn't want. And finally, just after 3.5 years, I found a 2.5 Blue Label that was affordable and it was a good looking copy, and I bought that. So it's, even if they come up, you have to wait for the one you want. And if you're on a budget, it's tough to get these books, but they all come up, and some are more ghostly than others for sure. Some don't ever show up.
Yeah. Your threshold starts to go up. At first you're like, oh my God, I haven't seen it. I better get it. And then you're like, years gone by. That's okay. And then like for me, anything more than like 2 years, that's starting to be a little rough,
Oh, I went longer than that for my Wanted 49.
It's bad.
The Wanted 49.
You have to buy it.
I had to wait forever to get that. I mean, I waited, and then I found out a guy who had a grade higher than me, and there's only 3 on the census. I mean, they're really hard to find.
Yeah.
It's from Night Orbit Comics in 1952. It's just a bitch to find anywhere.
You have it? Can you show it?
Yeah, give me a minute here. I'll go grab it. So,
what's the longest you've had to wait, DS?
Me? I mean, 3.5 years was a long time. I waited for that Mr. Mystery 6. The Black Cat, but for a while I considered that unattainable because where I was at in my collecting it was not something I was ever going to be able to afford. So I wasn't actively searching for one. Like early last year, I really started looking. So, but I wanted that book for more than 2.5 years. But I would say Mr. Mystery 6. Horrific 1 is another one. I found a copy and it was low grade, and I just listed it on eBay for sale. It's a 1.8 with slightly brittle pages, so it's not my keeper copy, and it never was. I'm still waiting for the right copy of that to come along. I lost an auction on a BG Fine copy a couple months ago, and that's a tough book to find. That one really is more rare than most, and I've lost a couple auctions. And so I still don't have a copy of that, and that's probably 4 years looking for that. I had a copy as like a holder copy, but I never considered that a keeper. So I've had it, but I'm still, this whole time I feel like I don't have one that satisfies me. So, and that's my icon.
Are you, Paul? Have you had any comics you had to wait for? Like you had the money ready, and then you just couldn't find anything to buy them.
So far, I've been pretty lucky. I haven't had to spend more than about 6-8 months looking for something, but that's because I haven't hit most of the big keys for stuff I've been looking for yet. So, plus I'm more eclectic with my collecting than you guys, which is kind of good with the discussion we were talking about. Like pre-code horror gets a little crazy, and I'll move to one of my other areas that I collect, so that, like DS said, I'm not the guy that's left holding the wall with the book that's too expensive, and then a year later I'll take a look back and the prices will have gone down on a lot of the stuff, and that's when you swing in and grab one.
Yeah, this is the one I was talking about here. That I've got this copy which I'm selling, and this is the only copy I've been able to acquire that's So yeah, I've been looking for this one forever. It's one of my favorite books. It's one of the tougher horror books to find, and yeah, it's one of the way to sell it. I'm gonna just use the money to buy some other stuff, and hopefully I can find more of those. I just want like a 3.5-inch copy of that.
Did you just get a Horrific 1?
No, that's the one I've had. I'm selling it.
Oh,
It's
But
a work.
you're willing to sell it before getting a
You
replacement.
know, I got a guy.
Yeah, I mean, I decided this is not a keeper copy, so why am I keeping it? I'm not going to play that game with Golden Age anymore. Like, if it's not a keeper copy, then why am I keeping it? You know what I mean? And I've had it for a while. I've enjoyed it, but yeah, I mean, if I'll find a replacement someday. But I mean, there's so many books on my want list. If that were the last book I needed, I would hold this one until I had a replacement. But my want list is huge. There's so many books I still want that
Right.
difference.
One of the things, here's that book, The Wanted. This is finally recognized for what it is. Now, the labels from the just before it don't have anybody credited with the cover and the art, which is ridiculous because it's not his. It says it right on it. It's John Buscema.
Oh yeah.
Cover to cover, his first one he ever did. And yeah, I mean, it's a 3.5, but I don't care. There's only 3 in the census, and I know the other guy, So,
I remember when you got that. How excited!
Yeah, I freaked out, man. I was like, "Do you believe I found this? This was an albatross, a ghost. There's only 3, and I always knew a guy with one of them, and I was like, "What do you think a fair price is?" And I told him what I was going to pay for this thing. He's like, "Damn, I'm selling mine now," and he did. He sold his for a lot more. It was only a great hire. I was like, "Wow."
Well, you're officially the collector of artist first appearances, I'd have to say now.
I have. Well, that's not his first appearance. That's his first cover to cover work. I have his first appearance.
Yeah.
I do love that stuff.
What about Wally Wood first?
I have no idea.
JD sent me a link to another cover to cover earlier this week.
Thunder.
Yeah,
The Congo King.
Rosetta?
Rosetta.
and that was the
That one's pretty tough to find, but I've seen a few out there.
well, this one was the Okajima.
Oh, yeah, that's real cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not many kind
That whole collection, that whole Okajima collection, they consider that book. A lot of people say that that's one of the ones you're going to want because it's only 2 years of books or 1 year, right? Just 1944.
Yep.
It's just
and I think they said the Thunder was probably the key of the.
of the whole run. I mean, there's other ones that are great, but
What's the grade on the Okajima one?
Was it 7075 something like
yeah,
that?
That's high for that one, too.
that's a tough one to get in a high grade. So white pages, by the way, how ridiculous is that?
I think if I was I am a Frank Frazetta fan, but if I was like hardcore and those were like keys for me, that and then the one where his first professional work is also, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's like
TJ would know.
Tally Ho.
Tally
Tally
Ho.
Ho.
Yeah. 27 or
So
something.
Tally Ho would be 2 like Frazetta keys that would be really cool to have.
What's the first Matt Baker cover?
Matt Baker cover.
Yeah.
His first work was Jumbo 69.
His first known one anyway, because they're still.
His first known. No, that would have been his first. I think that's everybody agrees that would be his first. His covers would have been probably right around there, but you wouldn't know if it was him or not. He would have done like, he did Partial Elephant on a Jumbo right after that, but he could have been jumped over to Jungle. He could have jumped over anywhere else because he was part of that group.
Plus, his cover art is 90% of it's not signed. It's like you see a Bill cover, it usually says Bill Everett on it, or LB Cole always says LB Cole on it. I think there's maybe 2 that.
But they didn't work for Fiction House,
Right.
Both of them don't say Matt Baker on the cover.
Yeah, because Fiction House didn't allow it.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the other ones he did, like Authentic Police Cases, the Phantom Ladies. Obviously, they don't say Matt Baker on the cover, so it's hard to tell. Or he was super popular. Nobody really knew what covers were his, but now people are more aware of it because it becomes so much more popular.
Yeah,
Yep,
now they're looking for the ones where like he did layouts and someone else did the finishes, and
yeah, and there's going to be a lot more big stuff that there's going to be stuff that we're going to find out we thought it was Baker and it's not, and then there's going to be stuff that we didn't think it was him, and we found out he did the coloring on it, or he did this part of the cover. Because now that there's so many people into it, there's much more research into it, but it's not easy to research Golden Age stuff. I mean, most of the original art's destroyed or lost, so there's a lot of digging to be done, and you'll find there'll be stuff coming out in the future where we thought it was Matt Baker, it turns out it wasn't, or we didn't know this was, but hey, we now know this is him.
Right.
So.
Right. There are a lot of that's going on now. Actually, it's funny, for a cover that everybody thought was someone else turned out to be Matt Baker, and I'm like, he got another one. Okay, he got another one.
A lot.
Great cover. I'm like, okay, so now everybody with that book is like, oh, look at this great Matt Baker cover. I'm like, geez, it was Joe Doolin for about the last 20 years. So okay,
I know there's got to be a lot of original art in the estates of some of these families left.
I've seen some Matt Baker original art. I mean, I talked to people and stuff like that about that. RB3 was a good one. One of the things about the original, when I did the original art thing on Stranger Things one time, there was one, $3,900 was a page in a Jumbo Comics, I think it was 151, which he did a page on the inside, or 115, and it was a copy of the book, and the guy wanted $3,900. That's about $1,000 more than it should be, because there was a lot of Baker original art that is out there, but they don't come up often. That's the other thing.
Most people who have them are keeping them.
Here's the thing: you think comics are scarce? Golden Age, try original art collecting. Those people that put us to shame. Those guys that really do real original art, like Anthony Snyder and those guys are legitimately.
Well, imagine if a
There's only one.
Captain America 1 cover came up. I mean, you'd almost want that to just go to a museum, right?
The original art for Cap 1?
Yeah, the cover, yeah.
I mean, if that's sold at auction, that would probably be...
That would be insane.
10 million? I mean, I got to think that would be worth more than a Frazetta original painting, and those are going for $4 or $5.
5.4 million, yeah.
It would have to be up there. Yeah.
Let's see.
There was a LB Cole's personal collection of his original art and sketches and stuff came to auction a couple years ago, and some of that stuff's still floating around. But there is some original art by LB Cole that's out there that was auctioned off from his estate, and it was auctioned off a couple years ago and didn't go cheap. But if that stuff came to market now, it would be through the roof. Some of it probably will come to market because the prices now have gone up so much on something like that. Original LB Cole art. I mean, that stuff would be super expensive too. I don't see any of it on the market.
You know what's weird is they wasn't. I showed guys. I think I showed you guys that original art that one time that only went for like, I think it was $3,300 for an original cover of a Harvey book from the 50s, and I'm like, that's ridiculously cheap just because it wasn't any big name.
Yeah.
What big name on there? But just because it wasn't signed Elias, or it wasn't signed Jack Davis or someone, it didn't mean that it couldn't have been. It was just that it wasn't signed on. Sometimes they didn't sign the original work, and it was going for 33, and I was like, this is stupid, and it was just ridiculous. I was such an idiot. But
I went to a Marvel Comics exhibit last year, and they had on loan from the Library of Congress the Amazing Fantasy interior pages because they were donated like anonymously.
Nice.
I wonder if Ditko is the one who gave it to them. Who knows? But
yeah,
I felt like that's where they belong.
That's probably what he would think too. Yeah.
But I wonder where that cover is. Jeez.
Oh well, the original cover or the one they used?
The one they used.
The one they used.
Okay. Where that is.
Because I've seen the artwork for the original cover that was
Ditko.
It was used in reprint or whatever, but I've seen that original art come up before. I'm sure you all saw the Hulk 180 original art, the last page about, I guess it was 2000, I'm throwing out there 13.
Do you ever
12.
listen to that original art podcast? It's really good. It's like Felix Arts podcast.
I know who he is. Yeah, I mean, I see him on the original art
He
page.
does a podcast and he talks with other collectors, and some of them are like insanely high-end collectors. And I think on one of the last ones, they were talking about that there's rumors that the 181 cover is coming out
Next. Yeah, because 180,
insane.
right, the last page 180.
Yeah, that went high.
That
But
went, I think it was 2012 or 2013 on Heritage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine that cover. It's going to be
Imagine 181. I mean, just think about it. That went for over $500,000, and that would probably easily go. I think the opening bid was $500,000. I forget what it did went for. It went for a lot.
It would go for $1 million, that 181 cover. At least.
So that, and then other amazing covers are going to come out, except they've never found the Silver Surfer 4 cover. That's one of those ones that nobody's ever had.
It's out there, I bet, though. I mean, that's not.
I mean, we don't know, unless somebody threw them out. Because there's some of them that they just didn't keep. I mean, that was the true story. That's one of the worst things that happened. There was a secretary or someone in charge of Marvel in I think it was 68, 69, around that time, where she dumped a bunch of the original art in dumpsters. Just threw it out.
There's stories of the Golden Age Timely offices where they would throw down the old pages to if there was like water on the ground and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were terrible. They didn't care. The secretaries had too much paper. They only had so much closet space, and they kept throwing things out, and they weren't even waiting to archive them. They were just like, whatever, throw it out the window. Silver Surfer, who cares? Out the window.
And the creator of
writing more
burned all his original Human Torch art. He burned it in his backyard when he knew he couldn't get the rights to Human Torch.
that's the thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't do original art for two reasons. One is just way too expensive because, there's only one piece for each thing. It's too expensive. And number two, I like color, honestly. I mean, I like color, man. I don't like the black and white. I mean, I appreciate it, and I would, if it was like a couple $100, I would spend on one of these, but I'm not spending tens of thousands of dollars that I don't have to get a cover. Yeah, and it's not even in color. So I mean, I'm kind of simple about that. I'm a simple guy. I like the cover with the color on it, and when I read, I like to look at the pictures. I'm that type of guy. You know what I mean? So
how simple of a guy is that every book, everything he likes to collect, and every picture he's looking at is pre-code art, someone getting decapitated.
Yeah.
Great line.
I don't have any original art for this stuff.
Normal guy.
So I don't have to worry.
It could be, forged as well. Some of those big, original arts.
Yeah, well, I've always been on there was the guy who had the Frank Miller Daredevil stuff. When Frank got rid of a bunch of it, and Klaus Janson had some, and they got rid of it, and they did this whole thing. I got to see them all, and pretty cool. I got to see like 168, all of them right down the line. All these covers and everything. And they are really cool without the coloring on them. The rendering and everything else is really, really cool. The notes on the sidelines and everything else from Miller, to the colorist, to Klaus. He goes, Klaus hit it with this. It's just really cool. I like that about those sketch covers and like the original art covers that you can see.
Yeah, I think if I was to get into original art, I would, since I like to have my art
stuff,
like the covers I collect, I would collect in a different way. Like there would be artists that I don't own any of their books, but for original art where it's just the line work and it's not colored, I would probably like to get like a Sam Keith piece. Mike McDowell piece would be cool. I mean, stuff that I don't normally collect, I would collect original art because that would be how I want to see the art, the line work. Or McFarlane, I would like McFarlane original art. That too expensive, obviously, but
there was this awesome one of those. I think it was one of those Felix podcasts. He talked to a really world-renowned art forger, and he actually did a little bit in comics. before. No one knows the extent of what it is, but one of the guys on there talked about. He had, I think it was Science Comics #1 or something like that. I think it was a Lou Fine, and he had it at a con, and he had just bought it or whatever, and super expensive. And Joe Simon was there, and Joe Simon said to him, well, that's not the original. And the guy was like, what? Like blah 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 and all this, like, but you can't really argue with Joe Simon. And then he's like, how are you so sure? And Joe Simon said, because the original is on my wall. And it took him to his apartment or whatever in New York, and like, yeah, the guy was, I mean, there's some forgeries out there, but that's.
Do you hear about that Fantastic Four? The guy who bought the Fantastic Four and tried to have it was Stan signed one, and then Jack signed, like Jack way back when, and they both of them said that's not it. That wasn't it. It was the original. It was a Fantastic Four, like it was a big one. And
like you're talking to Page?
Yeah, and they looked at the work, the whole portfolio of work, and they went through it. It says none of this is the original work. That was pretty crazy. That's not how we did it. Yeah, I mean, this was probably before digital printing and stuff. So
about a year and a half ago, Joe Quesada had about $250,000 original art stolen from his house.
Ooh!
But they caught the guy.
Was it old stuff or the new stuff?
Oh, his old stuff, like older Archie stuff from DeCarlo, and
yeah, I want to know which stuff. Yeah, you never know with him. So,
and then like Eric Larson, he was a big time art collector, and I don't know what exactly burned, but his whole house burned, and he said all his original art collection burned. So it'd be nice to know what.
Yeah, I mean, the guy who stole from Quesada, you got to be really stupid. I mean, it's uniquely identifiable. Yeah. I mean,
that's what I keep saying. There's only one of it. So, I mean, I have a few pieces, and I'm like, okay, I got it. Cool. Hey. But I don't have anything of the top 50 books I've ever wanted. So, one I do, but that's pretty cool.
I'm guessing most of the smart criminals are the ones you don't know about.
Yeah. Most of my friends went to jail. Yeah. All right. What else we're going to go over? You had a good topic. Mike. What was that topic?
That was you talking about mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about.
This goes both golden age and any age, but we're going to talk about golden age. You could take this up on your Silver Age show.
Well, I've been thinking about, as I kind of pare down my collection to get the best of the best or whatever, sometimes I get the feel, it's not quite as fun, because I have to be disciplined. You have to sacrifice a bunch of books in order to get a book, or you have to, not spend so that you can save, and sometimes I miss, when you buy only like 5 or 2 or 3 books a year, sometimes you miss being able to go out there and find stuff or just have new things to look at or whatever. So sometimes I wonder if other people who do that are finding you lose some of the fun of it.
It's totally like just for my Silver Age, I enjoy upgrading. So that's different. But my Golden Age stuff, is it frustrating? Yeah, because right now I'm at the point where it's save up time for books, because the ones I'm going after now are a lot harder. Better ones, different genres. It's just one of those things where I'm like, you miss it. Are we spoiling it? The answer is no. I'm good with it. What do you think, Paul?
Right, I agree. I mean, we were talking about this a little earlier.
Yeah,
I think that it's frustrating, like you said, but at the same time, it's when you make that score, it's so amazing, and you're just like you're over the moon. And plus, what I like to do, you know, you said you with your Silver Age, you like to upgrade, and your Golden Age, you stay. When I'm looking for a big book, I'll put a percentage of what I'm got to spend on books aside for that. I always have a little set aside just for if I'm at a show or something,
Yeah.
see something crazy. I'm
Yep.
like, oh, I got to get that.
Yep.
Smart.
And if I overspend, I sell a book.
Yep.
Exactly what I do.
Yeah, I mean, what I do, you know, if you pigeonhole yourself on too narrow a target in Golden Age, at least for me, it starts to become not as fun because chasing a target that doesn't show up often and you don't know when the next one will show up, what the grade will be, how much it'll go. It's usually an auction. You got to fight with other people. And then if you lose it, it's such a letdown. I usually put like, I don't know, I've got like probably 15 to 20 books like on my hit list. And they're all sort of big books for me. And they're all on my hit list. And what I'll do is I'll work up a budget and I have like target zones or target areas like comic link featured auction, fall featured auction, and Baltimore Comic Con. You know, there's some big events coming up, and with a 20 book list, I know several of those are going to be in some of those areas. So I will work a budget up till then, and I will definitely score something on that list. And then there's got to be something that's not on the list that I'm like, man, I can't believe I ran into this. This should be on the list, and I'll grab it. So that keeps it challenging but fun, and at the end of each several month period, I always score something. But if I feel like I want this book, and then I save up and I look, it's so frustrating because you don't see it, and then you miss a copy, and then a high grade copy comes up. It's too. So I just expanded what I'm looking for, and I've also loosened my grip on my books. I've become more willing to sell stuff I own, even if I love it. I'll get something else I love. It's not like it's going to be replaced with something I love equally. So I'm becoming less attached to some of these books that I can turn a profit on. And that makes it so much easier to pick up bigger books, because I picked up that Startling 49 because I let go of a few books that were pre-code hard grails. But, I've got a Startling 49, so I didn't lose anything as far as books I love. But it was,
and you owned it.
Yeah, and I had them before. I'll get them again. It's not like I'm not trying to keep an iron grip on all my books anymore. I'll move books in and out if I can increase the money, and then overall my collection becomes worth more, and I have bigger books here and there. Like now I have a Startling 49, I have a Black Cat, which I'll probably sell, but you get bigger books at a time like that for me.
Yeah, because I'm on the hunt this week, I'm not going to show a pretty big book I upgraded, Raw. I only had a Raw before, but I only never had one, in my opinion, that would be worth slabbing, but I certainly have picked up one I would slab in a heartbeat now.
Every book is worth slabbing, JD. Remember that.
I know. Well, this is in Golden Age. This is Silver Age, but it's not the biggest of the bunch. It's up there. So, but I had to upgrade. Anyway, that's one of the things that we talk about. One of the guys in the chat brought this up, and I forgot this is one. We'd all give it up. Would you give up? This is one of the guy brought up, buying a collection. What if you saved up and you had the money? How much fun is it to dig through a collection? First, you got to know what you got to, Has any of you bought a collection before? I was involved in buying a collection once, and it worked out for everybody. Some did better than others, and I think there was resentment there, but whatever.
Seems too much of a gamble for me.
Yeah.
I've bought collections, but it's like I used to buy more collections than I do now because it's tedious to go through a collection of, bronze, 80s, 90s books, and it's a lot of work to grade them, and it's a lot of work to rebag and board, and then to sell them to get some graded. It's a lot of work for one person if you don't have a comic store or a shop or something. So now what I've done, I don't really buy lots anymore. I don't even look for them that often. I just buy individual books that I think are underpriced, or I'll buy stuff that's cheap that I can get pressed and graded and flip it. And, I can
stop buying lots.
2 or 3 books for the same amount of profit I would get off a lot of 3 long boxes of copper and bronze. The amount of time. Look, people think it's easy to sell comics. If you buy a lot of even like 3 long boxes of stuff, man, it takes you a long time to sell those books realize the money from them. Not quick, it's long books, and it's a lot of. I mean, it's a lot of effort and a lot of trouble. I don't deal with it anymore.
Nice.
I've never bought any big collections. I've just bought like smaller ones,
Yeah, that's,
3-4
yeah,
long boxes,
yeah, that's exactly what I've done. I think I bought a couple of long boxes of Marvel back in the day. Yeah,
Yeah, I
Smurf,
bought 4 long boxes of stuff, and it was 80s, 90s, some bronze stuff in there. It took me like 8 months to sell them, and it took a lot of time and effort of rebagging, grading, going through, listing them, selling them, shipping them. You gotta pack all the stuff up and ship them. Most of it's online. It took me 8 months to sell, 3 long boxes of stuff. It's not a quick process, man. People think you buy it a lot, you hit a gold mine. Yeah, maybe, but it's a lot of work and it takes a long time. It's not easy to sell 3 or 4 or 5 long boxes of comics.
I bought a nice Avengers lot of the first, I don't know, 60 or so, give or take. I think like 3 or 4 were missing, and none of them were that hard to come up with. It wasn't like it was one was missing, one was included, one was beat to shit. Most of them were beat to shit, but whatever. I bought it that way. I went through it, but I knew what I was getting. It's the ones that buy it that just says, pre-code horror short box, $10,000.
Yeah,
What do you do?
I had a long box or 2 of somebody who had Golden Age collection. I would buy it sight unseen, or Silver Age. If it was also like a couple long boxes of Silver Age,
Yeah.
just buy it sight unseen, and that's different. But when you start to get into bronze,
I don't touch any of that. Yeah, I can't. Anything I paid, if I could have bought it in the store, I wouldn't buy the collection because I probably already had it.
yeah, Silver Age is the best lot.
Caleb, I gotta show him my Smurf lot. Since we're
Oh
talking.
yeah, Caleb.
I like buying lots of little Smurfs for my daughter.
And I noticed you had Smurfs #1 behind you.
Yes, I got that in a lot recently,
I'm like, I'm not the only one with it.
and I got this with that lot, which was pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's a cool book. The original Belgian first appearance of the Smurfs.
Yeah, I sent that to Caleb when he was at where was he? The one in Orlando, MegaCon. I said, keep a lookout for this thing. This is what the one you have to get. It was pretty cool stuff. It was where is it? Yeah, Spirou.
Yeah.
The 2 highest graded ones, both 9.6s, went up for auction last month.
Oh yeah, that's right. How much did they go for?
I have no idea. I didn't check. Pretty high though. I know it was pretty high. I know they were records. So
Is that first appearance of Smurfs or something?
yeah, the blue is the first appearance of Smurfs, and the yellow is the first cover appearance. So
Yeah, I think I've seen that before.
9.6 white pages, both of them. It's the copies, the highest 2, obviously on the census. It's got the actual date. Yeah, usually they do. It's right there, like a daily almost in Belgium. So it's a specific date. It wasn't like December of 1950. It was like December 20. Well, it says here, October 23rd, 1958. Because it was a daily paper. So
Yeah,
there you go.
Interesting question. I think sometimes is what is the golden age of other countries? Because to me it means it has to be printed in something that was never collected. Because
I think the British stuff was pretty good. So much so that they all came over to the U.S. and did Vertigo. Their it was the 80s,
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff like I look at a lot of like Mexican, Brazilian, like South American, Central American type comic stuff, and I think it seems like a lot of the golden age stuff for them seems to be dated like in the late 50s. There's a lot of 56, 57, 58 is like a key year. Like 58, there seems to be a ton of stuff out there. And you can tell this is like the oldest stuff you see, and it's got that golden age quality to it, and some of it's kind of rare, and some of it's cool, and a lot of it's reprints of U.S. golden age stuff, but a lot of it's original too. And it seems like late 50s is like where a lot of that golden age for other countries is.
I do some Japanese collecting, and they have these. I feel like eventually this might be like a gold mine, but I don't know. I wish I knew Japanese and could go there and figure it out. But so originally, usually all manga is printed in like magazine or these big formats where it's like really crappy paper and it's super cheap, and they throw them out. But it contains the first appearances of a lot of manga that actually ends up being anime, and it actually they are worth a lot, but not nearly as much as like American comics, you know. But
There's Canadian Reds.
They throw it out. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. Does anybody here ever get any Canadian Reds? Okay. Yeah, I see those things out once in a while. They're red covered, but they're black and white on the inside.
Yeah, I pretty much don't buy anything that's Canadian at all, even though there's some original stuff that's pretty hard to find. I just nothing
There's
against
a lot of
stuff, but if I was a millionaire, I would be buying all kinds of stuff, even outside of comics. But for me, comics are a true American art form. I stick to American comics. I'm one of those guys that, you know, even if the X-Men 1 UK version is printed at the same time, I understand why it's half the value, because I'm one of the guys that wants the American version of that kind of stuff too. But some of the Golden Age, there's some Canadian stuff that's really cool. And even when they did, like, they took a cover from an American one, they changed the color scheme of it.
Was it
that Guns Against
Avon that went back and forth?
Huh?
Was it Avon that had a lot of Canadian versions?
Or
Or Ajax, maybe? One of them did a lot of Canadian.
I mean, MLJ had some Canadian, did some swipes of some MLJ stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot of swipes and stuff. Yeah, the Western and the...
There was some, like, Novelty Press has a lot of Canadian prints of it.
I remember, like, colors, they were, like, green and white on, like, some EC books in Canada, and they were blue in the U.S. Like, you could see that much of a difference where, like, the banner around the artwork in there, like the photo cover that they used on EC, you know, how all those ECs have photo cover, where it was be blue if it was like incredible science fiction or weird science, whatever it was, it'd be blue background. In Canada, they were green.
Yeah, they did that with a lot of them. There was a Guns Against Gangsters 6, which is an LD Cole book from like 1940s. Shark.
Here's a Canadian one, guy.
It's green.
No,
The Canadian one is like blue.
Yeah.
I'd love this Canadian book, but I've yet to see one for sale in, I don't know, 5+ years.
Yeah, the Canadian stuff can be super rare too. So if you're looking for rarities, some of that Canadian stuff is really rare.
I'm trying to think of other. I mean, there's Pence versions. I never really shied away from them. There's actually, I picked up some Pence stuff today, which these are books, stuff that came out in London, in England in the 70s that were just really good retelling of like all the old Marvel stories, Marvel tales, and they were all like 7 pence and stuff. They were good, but the artwork's the same, so it's the exact same stuff. They just bunched like the arcs together out of nowhere.
Check this one out. This is a Down with Crime 7. It's a 1940s book. Pretty sought after, tough to find, really cool. It's got this guy with a gas
cover.
She's pulling out a gun to shoot him. She's not, a damsel in distress. She's going to fight for her life. But this came out. There's an Irish edition of this, and it actually predates this one. So I'm not sure what's up with that. But I've never seen an Irish edition of anything. This is the only one, and somebody on Instagram has it. An Irish edition of this, and it predates this. So I mean, some of those other countries have stuff that's even predates the American version.
Nice.
I don't really know much about it. I've never seen an Irish edition of any comic ever other than that one.
Yeah.
I'd love a Judge Dredd first appearance. Those
That's Canadian, right?
No, UK.
UK. That's right.
It was like printed on these like kind of newspaper, really crappy, editions, like tiny newspaper.
There's your Irish edition.
Yeah, there it is.
So
Yeah,
but the price is 6D, and
what's
it's
the price on it?
6D.
Oof. That's upside down. That's pence
Okay,
or shilling.
and
Yeah,
it's
I think the date on that predates the American one, and it's weird. That's the one I'm talking about. Whoever has that one,
it's 1951.
Shillings.
or maybe it doesn't predate it. Then maybe it's a different one. I'm
Be
thinking.
shillings. So I want to shout out the chat again before we go. Bake the Snake, Evan. How are you guys? We had Mr. Gretzky again, Caleb again. I saw he was there helping us out, doing a great job. JP's Budget Collecting. I saw you in here for a little bit. I saw Carson C. Woodard. Check out his video he dropped today on some cool hardcover signature books. They're really cool. He's got some pretty amazing stuff. I was really impressed. It was really good stuff. Definitely check out Carson's. That was real good stuff. Who dat? Great seeing you. Prince Waka has the first Judge Dredd. Very cool. Did not know that. So,
Here's what one of those looks like.
Comma Smith Explain. Yep.
Very early one. It's got it's just like mostly black and white. There's a few color pages in the middle.
What is that? That's
This is
2000 AD.
2000 AD, one of the number 18. It's one of the first Judge Dredd covers. But yeah, I mean, it's really small and flimsy, and they definitely threw a lot of these out. So
yeah.
I feel like that mirrors the Golden Age, American Golden Age, a little bit. Probably not collected. It was in from 77.
77. Okay.
What country is that from?
From the UK, England. Yeah, and it's all original stuff. It's like, I can't think of too many other English created characters besides Judge Dredd as far as comic books.
Rogue Trooper's the main one I think of because I've
Rogue.
Yeah, you'd have to ask somebody like JPL Flash or somebody who's over there, and they would know better.
Yeah, who would be the one that everybody?
I know Captain Britain.
or Kyle
Okay,
Watts,
I was gonna say
all that stuff.
Benjamin Braddock. There's Braddock. There's
Kyle Waka has a first Judge Dredd. I'm jealous for sure.
He's got a lot of 2000 AD stuff.
trying to think if there's got to be something was first debuted over there. So was Tarzan Edgar Rice Burroughs? Did he do that over there?
Well, yeah, if you go with like books,
Yeah.
Well, Captain Britain 8 had the first appearance of Psylocke as Betsy Braddock.
Yeah, I was going to say the first British was Psylocke. She's an X-Man. She's hot.
I'd love a Hobbit first edition. That'd be
The J.R. Tolkien stuff.
at least maybe $60,000 or $100,000.
When is the first edition of that come out? Like, how old is that?
It's like 1937.
Yeah, it was mid to late 30s.
Yeah,
It
it was before the war.
Yeah, there's like 6 of first printings or impressions before World War II, and all of those are worth a ton.
Yeah, because a lot of them were destroyed.
Yeah.
I thought it was more modern than that.
No, that was that was like a cult thing for a while.
And the Lord of the Rings, and it came out in 50s or 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, when it gets outside of like Golden Age comic books, I really don't research that stuff that much. And yeah, if I were when I hit the lottery and I win, $500 million, I will start collecting movie posters. I will start collecting books. So collecting all kinds of different stuff. I like antique medical equipment. I like skulls.
This is the guy who likes pre-code horror and antique medical equipment, by the way.
Yeah, I love that stuff. But I mean,
We got a
there was
theme.
a dental phantom. It was like a stainless steel skull with a human jaw in it that dental students would practice on at the turn of the century. And it had such a bizarre, eerie look to it. And it was $550. And I could have bought it. I thought that's a good price for that item. It was kick ass. But that's a lot of money out of my comic budget. So I can't do it. But if I was rich, I would snap that up because I've never seen one of those before. And that's a really cool item. It's like a stainless steel skull with an actual bone jaw that dental students could manipulate to practice on. And it was eye sockets, but it had this shape. And it was like, it looked like the Terminator, really, from the
Nice. That's Arnold
Arnold Schwarzenegger looked like the Terminator skull.
Look, that's what we're doing it for. We're doing a Generation 1 Terminator skull.
Well, there's a new thread on the
That's the T8000, to T800, right? So you don't know what the first 799 look like.
Yeah, right. Could be that.
Did you see there's a thread on the CGC forums? It's pretty recent in the Golden Age section, and the title is like, what do you collectible do you prize more than your Golden Age collection? And some of the stuff these guys have, it's just like, wow. You're talking about winning the lottery. Well, apparently these people,
There's a few guys in there that did you see the car?
No, I saw like all these collectibles from like pop culture and World War II memorabilia and
the guy with the car, the Eleanor from that movie Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
wow.
That car. He had it colored that way. Anything. I can rather have Steve McQueen's car and Bullet. But that's
Our holy grail is their third-rate hobby thing.
I'll tell you something else I would like to have would be like a shrunken head and a real authentic shrunken head. Or a mummified
I
head.
can't make this show up.
Or a mummified head. Like a mummified head, not necessarily from a mummy in Egypt, obviously, but
Let's go there.
a medical display from 1900. They had mummified heads that they would bisect, and you'd have a half of it where you could see the inside of it for medical students, like a mummified head or an original head. Those things, I would love to have one of those.
Well, I hope this isn't played at one of your trials in the future. Another thing I'd love to have is
Yeah, maybe I'll make a clean room and I can start creating my own shrunken heads, huh? Okay, friend.
Cow skull on my table.
PPH is bad for you.
Common Sense explains wife wants a shrunken head.
Yeah, man, shrunken heads are cool.
There's a human remains in the save list for Caleb, by the way, on eBay.
I'm saying I have that on my saved list.
Yeah, it's funny stuff. So.
I do search for mammal skulls a lot, and I just don't buy them. I would. I'd also like to have a skull that they dug up in probably Scandinavia or the UK that was like a Viking skull or a skull of somebody who died in battle that has a big bashed in part or a spear hole through it or something. Like a skull of a soldier who died in battle in the Middle Ages. I think that would be such an awesome piece to own. And you can get those, but man, they're expensive and they're on par with some of the books I buy, but I don't want to spend that much money outside of the books because I don't have it.
Depends on whose head it is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, depends how cool it is, I guess.
The lake here in Seattle, the lakefront property has all these rich people's houses, right? And if you just get in whatever boat, like my friend took me out on this little tiny boat, and you can see, you get really close to basically the backyards of these rich people's houses. And, typical rich people, they don't have curtains or anything. And you could see all in their house. But there's a guy who has a full T-Rex real skeleton, and you could totally look at it.
That's awesome. Well,
He bought a fucking dinosaur.
yeah, I bought a,
Winning the Golden Age collection.
Wow.
He won Jurassic Age.
and I kept the skull, the T-Rex skull from the model that I made. And I got rid of the model. It was a pretty low end model, but I kept the T-Rex skull. So that's pretty badass.
That's funny.
Well, if you come to visit Seattle, we'll have to take a boat out and take a look.
Yeah, let's go see the dinosaurs.
If you get too close to Bill Gates' house, all these security guards come out. And it's pretty funny.
That's always sounds like a good dining dad, a good ring and run right there.
They have tours too, like all these like big boats go around and you can see all the houses.
Silicon Valley. That's funny. Well, all right. Well, on that, on the winner of the Cretaceous age, T-Rex guy, second place TS Comics with his model. It was really cool. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you for being a friend. Oh, one more thing: the Comic Core contest to go to Baltimore has been extended 2 weeks for the holidays. Chad wanted me to let everybody know. Extended 2 weeks from the 4th, so it'll be the 21st, July 21st.
And one quick thing before we go, we've mentioned his collection before a couple times. Lamont Larson, happy birthday to him. It's his 92nd birthday today. He's still with us.
Wow.
Awesome. Thanks, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
Very cool.
He's still regretting selling.
Yep.
Regrets. He's had a few. So that's it for us here, everybody. Thank you once again for being a friend.
Take care.